Hi everyone, and welcome to another video from DisplayRepair.com. In this video we're going to try and give you some advice on how to save fuel while driving. With all the fuel crises coming and going, with the gas prices going up and down all the time, every drop of fuel seems to count. So stay tuned.
DisplayRepair.com.
The first piece of advice we have for you is to check the tire pressure on your car. Lower tire pressure means more fuel consumption. So you should check your tire pressure at least once a month. Twice would be ideal. Checking the tire pressure is among the regular checkups that you should do on your car. If you want to see what are those checkups and how to do them, we've made a separate video on that topic. We'll leave a link, so if you're interested, you can take a look. Watching how you use the climate control is a major factor for saving fuel, mainly in terms of cooling. When you want to heat up the passenger cabin, then the heater core is used, and this doesn't influence the fuel consumption. But if you want to cool down the cabin, then the AC compressor is engaged, putting a big load on the engine, thus increasing fuel consumption. Now, the best recipe for saving fuel regarding the AC is to use it rationally. So use it when you really need it. Now, don't be too strict about this. A proper cool down cabin is a matter of driving safety and a matter of comfort. You can perhaps turn off the compressor when you've cooled down the cabin, or you don't have to keep the settings on the highest level. Okay, once the cabin is cooled down, you can turn it up a bit so the temperature is normal. Keeping the window open while you're driving is something a lot of drivers do. This way you can get more fresh air into the passenger cabin. This is not that much of a factor if you do this at lower speeds like in urban driving, but it creates a huge air drag when driving at higher speeds like on the highway. So when you're driving in the city, it's pretty much okay, but if you want to save fuel when driving on the highway, close all the windows up. Avoid using the gas pedal too much after a cold start. This especially applies during the winter season. Once you've started the car, the best way to save fuel is to keep a normal pace of driving and don't go into too high revs. If you don't believe me, try when driving immediately after a cold start. Switch the board computer to fuel consumption, and you'll see the numbers literally skyrocket. It will double or even triple in value. We've made a separate video on this topic about the cold start and how it influences the engine. If you're interested, we'll leave a link so you can take a look. Avoid long idling. Some drivers like to keep their cars in the driveway for 5-10 minutes or even more for the engine to heat up, for the passenger cabin to heat up, and so on. Know that this spends a significant amount of fuel, especially if you do it lots of times. So the proper thing to do if you want to save fuel is to start the car, let it idle for a couple of minutes at most, and then start driving immediately. One more useful thing you can do is to turn on the fuel consumption gauge on the board computer. This way you can monitor the fuel consumption all the time and adjust your driving so you can perhaps save some fuel. Best turn on the gauge to the immediate consumption, not the overall consumption during the whole trip. I must say that you should do this only if it doesn't interfere with your driving. Don't obsess with it. Rather, give a short glance from time to time. When driving, try not to have a lead foot on the gas pedal. What this means is that when possible, avoid high revs. Of course, sometimes you're gonna have to do it like when overtaking, but most of the time you can drive at a normal pace. If you drive like this all the time, like this, then you can be sure that the fuel consumption will go sky high. But if you keep the rev count in normal limits, then the fuel consumption will be much lower. Keep a steady pace while driving. Now, I know this might seem a bit dull and annoying, but with some planning and with some wise driving, you can save a significant amount of fuel. This means that you can avoid things like traffic congestions, unneeded overtakings, emergency brakings, and so on. For instance, if you drive on the highway and you drive at 120 kilometers per hour, you will of course spend a lot less fuel than driving at 180 kilometers per hour, all depending on the speed limit. Yes, this will take more time, but if you start your trip earlier, if you have that possibility, you will save a serious amount of fuel. Don't get me wrong on this advice. Don't be a snail on the road. Don't endanger other participants in traffic by driving slowly, especially on the highway, just for the sake of saving a couple of liters or gallons of fuel. Rather, drive at a normal pace and you'll be able to save some fuel. Check your car from time to time for unnecessary things that you may be driving around. All of these things mean extra weight, and extra weight means extra fuel consumption. A good example of this are the tire chains, for example, that we need only in the winter season, or the child seats that we need only when driving the kids around. Now, this measure will not save you a ton of fuel, but in the long run it may be significant. Regarding engine maintenance, the most important things you should take care about is to change the engine oil on time and change the filters, namely the oil filter, fuel filter, and air filter. Of course, besides this, you should take care of other regular maintenance, especially the fuel injection system. Besides this, the quality of fuel you use also has a huge influence on the fuel consumption. So the better quality of fuel, the less fuel consumption there will be. Hope this video helps. If you find the time, visit us at our website despairrepair.com, where you can find more useful car and driving tips. Thanks for your time and thanks for watching.